All right. Welcome back, everybody. This is part 2 of the Intro to Zach podcast. It is just the continuation of the previous podcast. I hope you enjoy, and thank you for tuning in. See you all at the top. I mean, you nailed it 1,000%. So, yeah, I mean, you got to kind of take a deep breath, and kind of just be present for a minute. And
so you were reflecting back in college? You were taking time to reflect on like your life?
Yeah, I mean, dude, I was so thankful to be at Georgetown. I mean, so I was reflecting, because for me, it was like, holy shit, I'm lucky. I'm the one that got out. You know, my brother and I are the ones that got out. And I don't mean it in a state of like got out of some sort of prison, but when you come from a small town,
how big's where?
9,000 people, and public school class of 62, and guidance counselors that when, say, West Point came in as a football team to meet with me, they thought it was just like a military recruit. Like, they had no idea what was going on. I mean, I was applying to thank God my dad was so like proactive in finding us, in helping with the recruiting process, that I was able to get looks from all these, really good schools. But otherwise, I wouldn't have, I had it suggested to me, and there's nothing wrong with community college. Don't think I'm up on my high horse. I'm not on any high horse here, but just to paint the picture, I was like days from getting into Georgetown. I had visits to Princeton. I was being recruited by all the NESCAC schools, Amherst, Bates, Colby, really good schools. And my guidance counselor was still like, hey, maybe you should look into community college. Like, I was just like, what? What are you talking about? So, people weren't familiar with someone in my position, people being, those people around me in school. So when I actually got to Georgetown and was made aware of what was around me and the opportunity at hand, I was just like so stoked and grateful. So I would find myself being in these really nice situations in like some totally luxe New York City apartment, or some Mercedes that a 20-year-old was driving. So I would sit there and be like, oh my goodness, like, how did I get here? And when you ask yourself that question, you're provoking reflection. And for me, that reflection brought gratitude. So yeah, I mean, I started reflecting young.
Damn, man. I'm just saying, like, it's so funny that you're saying all this stuff, because this is all the stuff that like came into my life way after that.
Dude, I was just so stoked. I was like, holy shit, I pulled the right ticket. Like, I got lucky and pulled the right ticket. And I was just so thankful to be right where I was. I didn't need to be any further ahead, or, I didn't feel like I should be farther behind. I mean, I felt like I should be where I was. So I think that was impactful as well. It was like, man, this is where I'm supposed to be. Like, I was just, my previous life earlier, I was just misplaced.
And you felt that when? The first time you felt that?
I mean, dude, immediately upon getting to school. I mean, but I even felt lucky and reflected in high school, because I had a really nice family, and was
they're great.
And was really fortunate with all the love that I got and all the direction that was provided from my parents, mom and dad, and all like my grandmother. We had just had like the best relationship ever. And unfortunately, a lot of my friends, like almost every friend I had divorced parents, maybe not the same income level, drinking and abuse going on at home, things like that. Not everybody, certainly, my parents are friends with plenty of really good families, and I was around a lot of them too, but just from playing sports in a lower income town, I always felt very lucky, because my parents are super people. And I can remember from a young age when my dad was, he was always a coach of one of the teams, we didn't take in foster kids, but there were a lot of foster kids in the town. And, as a coach, my dad would have them over the house and let them stay for, 2 days, and totally take care of them. So I was exposed to the idea that I was luckier than the next person at a young age, and that helped me reflect in combination with the fact that I was exposed, while I wasn't any sort of outdoor athlete or going camping, I was still around the outdoors. And I just had a lot of time to reflect, really, starting from a young age. So I'm really grateful for that.
No, that's awesome, because I think we said I didn't really start to really reflect and look back until, several years after college. And I think that's awesome that you were doing that in school, because then you were able to make decisions after school that put you in a good spot where you'd ultimately find what you really love to do, which is run now.
Yeah, I love running.
And just keep running.
Yeah, totally. I mean, you nailed it. We can talk about running all night long.
I don't have anywhere to be. How did you get into running? And when did you get into running? Is that something that happened?
Yeah, I really got to give the credit all the way back to my mom once again, from as a true starting point. I mean, there's many points that connect the dots, but I remember my mom and my grandmother that I'm talking about, Grandma Alice, she was a walker, and she would walk every morning. My mom was a walker and a runner. She would run every morning before work.
I didn't know this about Suze.
Yeah, only 3 miles, but still, she was always. My mom was so good about it. And she would still make us breakfast before school.
Gangster.
Susan she's like Super Susan, and I remember her waking up and always running to the lake and back, 3 miles. So always getting in some exercise, and it took me actually years after the fact, when I truly got deeper into running, to realize in reflection that is where it began. But it didn't. I would ride my bike alongside her as she ran.
When she was running?
Yeah, just cruising. So we got that good quality time. And as I grew older, I guess anyone that is a runner, the question you get asked is why you run? That's what you just asked me. And I would ask my mom because I couldn't believe it. I wasn't in the running. I was like, wow, why do you like running? You look tired, you're breathing, just little things it's great to have a routine she wanted to be healthy. Helps clear her brain. Just great way to start the day. All these things are things that she would tell me. And to this day, my mom is still a total savage. We'll go to the gym. Now she has a gym routine. She doesn't really run anymore, but now she's got a gym routine. And she's really good at sticking with something. My mom is really good at committing. So I got exposed to it young, and then that turned into off seasons, even in high school football, during football, maybe I would run around my neighborhood, really short, mile. I thought a mile was a breakthrough. And then I got to college, and I don't.
But why? Why? I didn't want to do that. I hated running. Why were you running just around your neighborhood, just to go?
No. I had a burning desire to be in as good of shape as possible to play college football, because at a young age I knew that was going to be my ticket from small town to big city or something. So the running I knew was helping me in some way, shape, or form. Because I wasn't the player that was in the game for one play and then came out. I was in it for the entire game. Or for basketball, I was in it for the entire game. So I needed this cardio mixed with, the brawn as well. So I needed the muscles and the endurance, right? So I guess that was a little bit of it. And then I got to college, and I don't really remember ever running while I lived in the dorms. I can't really remember it.
Outside of football, no.
No, I don't think I was. But I do remember that, when we were somewhere around the Obama inauguration, so living, my junior year, I was starting to take, short runs, say from Georgetown over to over the Key Bridge and back. I think that was 3 miles. You would go over to the War Memorial over there and back. And then I would do that here and there into my senior year when we lived in the house together on 35th or whatnot. And then super senior year, same deal. So it wasn't totally frequent, but enough. And that was really just to cure a hangover or come off of whatever it was I was on at the time, and just to reset my clock. And it did always work. So, and once again, I would think back to the example I had and what it did for my mom, and I was like, okay, well, I'll give it a try. So started running a little bit in college. Let's fast forward a little bit, get out of college. I am in Steamboat now, and I picked up just running short distances.
How many years in Steamboat? When
I probably didn't run for the first year I was in Steamboat, like maybe the first full year, but there's a pretty good running community there. So I snuck back into it and started doing just smaller runs on my own. And you can call me crazy. There's all sorts of things that got me into running. One of them was I had this insanely lucid dream one night. And the dream was I was running down this specific road. It's called Route 9 in my hometown. And I just felt so good. I was never on the ground. I was like floating. And it felt so good. I just felt so amazing in this dream that when I came out of it, it was like, that was a message. That was something. It was monumental, man.
Damn.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
And that was at the same time that someone really close to me was having their own little suffering battle. So I needed to work thoughts out. And it also was while I met the man that I talked about that hooked me up with the diving in the Cayman Islands. He's just quite the story himself. He was, I believe, an investment banker is what he did, and then had like a heart attack and wanted to reset his life, live more of a life of wellness. So he retired and decided he was going to run a mile a day every day for as long as he could. And I think he made it 11 years before getting hurt. A mile a day for 11 years. Crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy, but at the end of the day, it's also 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And to think that you can, link a mile a day for 11 years.
Right. But that's totally true. And you think about this guy, he was running anywhere and everywhere. It could be on a boat at sea. He was doing laps.
He was doing it on a boat.
I mean, everywhere. This guy lives an awesome life. Yeah. He's not just, at home doing nothing. So he goes running.
Yeah.
So all these things kind of played together. I was just interested in exploring the outdoors. I wanted to have time for myself, to think out the troubles in my mind that were affecting me from the suffering of a close one. And I also really just, I really wanted an identity again. Everyone I was around was skiing, so everyone was a skier. Everyone was mountain biking, so everyone was a mountain biker. And I couldn't seem to work myself into that crowd to get like enough credit to be really good friends with the hardcore people in those sports in my town. And that's no disrespect for those that were my best friends, but I really, really, really wanted to be in those, in the deepest, what I thought were the guys in the deepest into the ski scene there. But I couldn't get that traction. I don't know what it was. I think a big part of it was people having this misunderstanding of who I was, thinking I was some real spoiled kid just living in the mountains off parents' money or something, just based on where I went to school and came out. So I don't think I was getting adequate respect, which also led to me doing the PCT. But that also made me just want to be a runner, because it was I'll just go run and have my own identity, So I had a place to go work all that out. I think identity is a massive thing, and that was also the catalyst to another phase of my life, was getting into running. So that was I checked my Instagram not too long ago, because I was like, damn, how long have you been into this running thing? And it was 2013. I got my first pair of Hoka running sneakers.
I remember
That's when they came out, and they look like moon shoes.
They were moon shoes.
But I was like, screw it, man. This is once again another identity. He's the guy that runs in Hokas, right? And I knew that Hoka was all about long distance, and yeah, I got into running. The environment was prime for it. Wonderful trails, and I just got into it and started doing small races. Small runs on my own, and that led to, one thing led to the next. I mean, there's all sorts of people that helped me get to where I am today in life, fitness, nutrition, everything, right? None of this, it's not like I went through figuring this shit out on my own. I mean, you can give yourself credit, but you got to remember to give everybody else credit too. And There's one guy that was just so influential on my running that was, I kid you not, one year I saw him walking around my neighborhood, shirt off, tall boy can in his hand, just kind of trashing it around the neighborhood. He made an overhaul of his life, and the next summer
through running.
Got it. Yeah, he got sober and cleaned up his life. Totally new human. One of the best dudes I've ever met. Love chatting with him. Love sharing running stories, and I've told him before, he inspired me because he just made a change. And like I said, the following year I saw him, I was living in the same spot he was too, and all of a sudden this guy's coming back from like big runs, and I'm just like, holy shit, and I'm like, well, if he can do it at 15 years older than me, like, why can't I do it? So I stepped up my mileage once again, almost all of my own. I didn't have any run buds until I got way deeper into
What's stepping up your mileage mean? When at that point?
Going over 10.
Okay.
Yeah, half marathon, 15, so that was 16 most maybe.
That's a normal run for you at this point in your life? You're just hopping out and running a half marathon?
Yeah. I mean, now a half marathon now is fortunately a pretty chill day on the trail. Half marathon now is like, I don't know, 2 hours of running, which is that is not lightning speed, but yeah, anyways, that's the distance. Blah blah blah.
But it's not on a flat road. It's up through the mountains, and you're doing a lot of elevation change, which in and of itself is difficult if you're walking.
Right. No, I mean, but that's what I loved about it was the feeling I would get from being totally exhausted. And the way I got going further than I had ever gone before was just by bringing a little bit more water and a little bit more food, so that when I got tired and thirsty or tired and hungry, I couldn't use the excuse that I didn't have water and I didn't have food to get me off the trail. Instead it was, well, you have this water, you have this food, what's your real reasoning? Are you tired? Like, you can go further. You're like being tired. You've been tired before. You used to stay up all night and party and go to football practice, So my mindset kind of shifted in that I wasn't allowing myself to have any escape routes. I was just really just exploring what I could do. And
from a potential standpoint?
Yeah, from a potential standpoint. And I think it was important, actually, that I was getting into it by myself, because I didn't have anyone there to turn me around and be like, I'm tired, I'm going back. Or, hey, you said we were going to go, grab a beer at 6:30.
It was all on you.
It was all on me.
Yeah.
So if I ended up having to come back in the dark and be scared shitless coming out of the woods, well, that was on me, and then as I did it more, I started, getting more and more interest from other people, and that was rewarding, because they wanted to know about me, and they wanted to know about how I was doing this or that, or how I just all of a sudden got into this, and it just filled me up a bit more. So I just stuck with it, and it was a nice thing, because I got so into it that wherever I was going, I was running. So now I always had something to do, and that identity carried with me everywhere that I went. And it really just became something to talk about, and gave me more of a sense of purpose, I would say. So I just stuck with it, and eventually, lo and behold, and we've already talked about it, but I ended up doing the Pacific Crest Trail. And after that experience,
would you say your transition into running ultimately opened you up to doing the Pacific Crest Trail? Do you think you would have been doing the Pacific Crest Trail if you didn't take up running like you did?
I think I could have gotten... Yeah, I think I might have still gotten to that place. Who knows? But what I do know is that I had more confidence going into the PCT because I was a runner than I would have had if I was not a runner. Because I just had more time on the trail than I would have otherwise alone.
Yeah.
And I knew what it was like to at least go. I'd never gone more than probably 18 miles in one run, 16 miles in one run maybe, before I hit the PCT.
Did you ever run on the PCT?
Just when the pack was light or something and I really wanted to get to town.
Okay.
But no, I mean, your pack is generally too heavy. It's 5 days in between each town.
You weren't waking up and going on an early morning run before you hit 30 miles on a hike.
No, I mean, only on the guilty days where I should have been at the trail and I wasn't, and I was like in some random place, and I was like, oh, I'll go for a run since I missed 20 miles of trail because I hitchhiked to this hot springs. Well, now I got to prove that I'm not off trail because I'm tired. I'm off trail because I want to be. So I did have some nice runs while I was on the PCT, but not with my pack on and not while actually doing the trail.
When you're running long distances now, so you're running, what, you put 69 miles on, you're going to be running, 68 here in almost a month.
64 and change.
64 and change. What type of mental chatter's going on in your head when it starts to suck? When it starts to hurt?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, I get asked that a lot, actually, is like, how do you... So I guess it's something I need to reflect on more, to be real with you. Like, I don't have that real answer, but I think it's just this determination in my brain to...
Just keep going.
Just keep going, like, just to tell myself, like, if it's true injury, like I'm sort of experiencing right now with this IT band issue, I'll take days off. But if it's just fatigue... If it's just something that I've come to assess as a little bit of pain, I think my mentality is mainly just like, okay, when things get hard, you can't run away.
Was it always like that, though? I mean, when you were first starting to run and you were doing more, you were just starting out, was it any different?
I've always liked pushing myself to the point of exhaustion. So, I think that's something that helps me, is a fortunate thing in being a runner. But yeah, I mean, when it gets hard, I think it's this burning desire to prove to myself that I can. And that there's also, in the same respect, this fear of having to say I can't. And I something I never really say. So when things are tough and I'm really tired, as long as I'm totally physically capable, like I'm not pressing the button on my spot to get a helicopter out, I'm just like, you know what? Am I going to die from this? No, probably not. So fuck it. I'm going to keep going. I'm going to get myself out. Worst comes to worst, I'm sleeping on the dirt, and it's really, I think it comes down to the whole be prepared, don't be careful type thing. And what I mean by that is, like, being careful is sort of a fearful mentality. Being careful is a tentative mentality, I believe. Being prepared is more of a confident and proactive attack mode, I would say. So as long as I know I'm prepared, then I know I can push through the pain because I'm prepared for the worst possible outcome. So, for example, when I was in the Sierra a few months ago up at Kearsarge Pass, I had it in my mind that day that I was going to run from Kearsarge Pass to Forester Pass. So, to paint a picture of what that's all about, is Kearsarge Pass links you with the Owens Valley from the John Muir Trail or the PCT. They're merged at that point. And I wanted to run from the trailhead at Kearsarge Pass to the highest point on the PCT, which is Forester Pass, and back. And I believe that would have been 34 miles or something. And that...
With what type of elevation change?
Oh, I mean, I'd have to look on the topo, but it's a damn lot. But long story short is that day... I'd driven from Malibu out there totally unprepared for what could be the worst case scenario. So what would be the worst case scenario in that situation is I get out there, I get hurt, I have to spend the night in the woods, and it's, say, thunderstorming and 42 degrees, meaning hypothermia and trench clothes, right? So I had to be real with myself that day and recognize the fact that it wasn't just pain I would have to push through that day. It could be life-threatening. So I readjusted my plan to one where I was more prepared to handle and ran a section that was about 10 miles shorter. I ended up doing about 22 over to Glen Pass, Ray Lakes area, and ran back. And that day was really, it was an exhausting run and mission. But I was so prepared that in those hard moments, I was just like, whatever. If I got to slow it down a bit and chill, I can handle it because I'm prepared enough to get back to my car now. There's nothing that's going to stop me. The worst situation right now is that I'm going to have to go downhill 6 miles back to my car in a thunderstorm or something rather than, okay, I get 17 miles to Forester Pass. Now I got to descend, climb back out, and get to the car. Might not happen with 17 miles. You can go, I might suffer hypothermia in those 17 miles, whereas in 5 miles of downhill, I can get back to the car fast enough. So it's all about being prepared.
Do you think about worst case scenarios like
every single time?
Even when you're not running, you think about worst case scenarios just like living?
Yeah.
Going through the day.
Yeah, that's it.
And then how you would be prepared for the worst case scenario.
Break it down. What's your worst case scenario? What's it going to be? For most people, it's going to make you realize that you still have this person, that person, and the other. That you still have this. I mean, yeah, worst case scenario, unfortunately, for some people can be that you're not going to have anyone to fall back on, and there's that. But I think what you got to do is train yourself to be grateful for what you do have.
Respect.
Yeah, so worst case scenario, I'm always thinking of. I mean, yeah, not when I go for a run down Zuma Beach, but yeah, when I hit the trail by myself for any little run around here, like I think worst case scenario. So, as you're aware of last summer, I found out that I'm highly allergic to wasps. So now I got to think when I'm taking off, okay, do I have a little bit of Benadryl? Do I have my EpiPen? All right, worst case scenario now is I'm going for a 15-mile run. And at mile 6, I'm not going to have cell phone service to mile 10. So worst case scenario is that between mile 6 and 10, I get stung by a wasp, have to stab myself with an EpiPen, and maybe have to press the button to get a helicopter out of here. Right? But I already know that. I already inherently know that those are going to be maybe the toughest miles of my life on what would otherwise just be an 11-mile run. But at least I've thought it out. I know what I'm going to do in that position. I'm going to be prepared for the worst. Rather than going out and being surprised. So it's really all about being prepared. Being careful doesn't really do shit. Being careful, you're not going to be able to push your threshold. Being prepared, you're going to be able to push, what you once thought was impossible. So it really is all about being prepared.
No, that's awesome. I got to do more of that. Because you that's when you do get surprised and you're like, oh shit, and you're freaking out. You're like, what am I gonna do now? What do I do now?
Oh, I shouldn't have been so careful. I should have been fucking prepared.
Should have been prepared before I did all this shit.
Yeah.
Dude, you getting stung by wasps was freaky for me because I thought that was just wild seeing you like that in the outdoors.
That was easily the worst outdoor experience I've ever had in my life. On top of nearly getting struck by lightning, on top of being stuck in board shorts and leggings and a shitty jacket during a snowstorm in Washington while on the trail, that was an eye-opener for me. That was a moment of, hey, you're not invincible, and that was a moment of, I should have been more prepared. But at the same time, I couldn't have been more prepared. I did have Benadryl on me. I had a first aid kit. I just didn't know that I was allergic, I suppose.
How can you be prepared for something that you don't really know is going to be a problem?
So I guess the lesson is, you can only be as prepared as you know, but just, touch up on your preparedness and do a little, make sure you check all the boxes.
God, thank God Jake wasn't allergic.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, seriously. He's talking about a buddy of ours. It's...
He got stung what?
Much younger, got stung 10 times. So you don't know who's going to be allergic. But yeah, I mean, that was literally life or death, and I don't think anybody realized it until after the fact. Until days after, I came out of shock probably 45 minutes into it. So basically I'll just tell the story. I mean, basically what happened is we were out clearing some brush on the side of a trail, doing a little trail volunteer work, and we stirred up some wasps, and the young kid that was helping us with this trail clearing effort, he got stung either repetitively or by multiple wasps at about 10 times. And during that, while he was examining himself and I was walking over there to see what was going on, I got stung once in the abdomen, and just once. And I remember seeing the wasp fall out of my shirt. And I had no clue that I was allergic. The week before, I was on Kauai, driving down the road. I'm driving down the road, and a wasp comes through the window and stings me in the chest. And I look at my girlfriend. I'm like, I just got stung by a wasp, like through the window. Like, holy shit, how did that happen? You know? And I didn't think anything of it. I had a mild localized reaction. I've always kind of swelled up from stings.
Wait, so you got stung before that?
Yeah, I mean, I've been stung plenty of times, and they say that you're more likely to develop histamines as you get stung repetitively and as you get older. So it could have been a certain circumstance that made me highly allergic on the day that we're talking about. But long story short is I had been stung just about a week before this particular sting that we were talking about with Jake. Yeah. So yeah, you know the story. I got stung. And within about 2 minutes, after I got over to Jake and I was like, all right, let's get out of here. It's just volunteer. You got stung a ton. Let's just get you back to the car. It's about 1.5 miles out. Let's just do this damn thing. So I start walking with him. And I'm like, you know what? I got Benadryl. I was like, Jake, here, take some Benadryl. I'm going to take some too. I got stung. I might as well. And lo and behold, literally right as we're popping these things, I start feeling all sorts of wonky. Oh. And I mean, when you're running and doing this shit and living in the woods, like, you know your body pretty well and how you feel and how you should feel and shouldn't. And I was not right. And that scared me because I'm a 29-year-old guy. I think I'm invincible, And I get stung, and I'm trying to help a young kid out of the woods, and all of a sudden, I have a pulse coming up the back of my neck into my head that is like, I just did some drug I don't even know about. Then I feel like my heart is going to pop through my chest. Ooh. I'm now sweating. As it progresses a few minutes in, I have snot coming out of my nose. I am tearing. I'm not actively crying, but like my eyes were tearing up like crazy. I'm coughing, if you remember. I was having trouble breathing. My chest hurt. I felt like I couldn't walk straight. And I was in my head, I was like, okay, 1.5 miles, I can get out of here. And then within 10 seconds of having that mentality, I realized I can't go another step. So I just sat down quickly, and before I know it, I was spitting, throwing up, diarrhea, everything in my body wanting to come out. And I realized I was in anaphylactic shock and possibly on my way out. And that's when I was like, yo, Rob, go get Mel. Maybe he has an EpiPen. And, he didn't. And luckily I had tons of Benadryl, and I hit the Benadryl and just drank the water and just stayed as chill as I could, like just breathing in through the nose, out through the mouth, just relaxing, just, okay, stay calm. There's nothing you can do. Like, number one rule for anyone listening is that when shit happens, don't freak out.
Yeah.
Don't freak out. What is that going to do? You're just going to, train yourself not to freak out. If you can do yourself one favor for the outdoors and adventure, train yourself to not freak out. Once again, just be prepared. So, fortunately, I learned that lesson before, and I just was like, okay, just breathe in through the nose, out through the mouth, let this run its cycle. The only way you're going to get through it is by going through it. And, fortunately, I think after about 45 minutes, about maybe 30, when the helicopter did show up and I was able to wave it off, which probably shouldn't have done, I was able to stand myself up and walk out of the woods, which sucked in itself because I don't know if you remember this, but all the wasps following me on the way out, because they inject this venom that attracts other wasps to let you know that you are the one. So that was just like crazy scary. Actually ended up feeling fine for most of that evening, following morning. And then the following day at about 3 o'clock, it felt like I had flu symptoms. And those flu symptoms carried on for 2 or 3 days and finally dissipated after about 5. So it was an awful experience. I'm now loaded with EpiPens and ready to go. But
I didn't realize how real that experience was for a couple days.
Yeah.
That is
totally Totally real. I mean, I knew instantly just on the fact that was the worst I've ever felt in my life that it was it was a serious experience.
Were you more scared for your life then, or when you were almost got struck by lightning?
You know, I knew that the bee instance was more serious, but I was more scared when I almost got struck by lightning. And when I say almost, I mean like it was probably 20 feet away from me. The tree had struck, all the hair standing up on my body, zinging with electricity, hearing the electricity in the air. But I think that's because I was pretty much a novice to the wilderness at that point when I almost got struck. If it weren't for my buddy Greg and some other people with me that day, I would not have known. I knew to get to the low spot, but I didn't know what the lightning position was, which is get down like a catcher, baseball catcher, hands over ears, try to rise up onto your toes, put as less surface area on the ground or as little surface area on the ground as possible. And you know,
so you're squatting down on your toes.
Squat down like a catcher, hands over ears. Mm-hmm. But I didn't really know what to do, and so I was just scared because I wasn't really prepared, and I didn't have the proper gear at the time to withstand a storm all night, and I didn't even know what the proper gear was or what to do with it. I was just too new and wasn't prepared, and I mean, it wasn't really I shouldn't have been out there situation. I mean, we already talked about I'm a weather nerd. I certainly examined the weather, but I wasn't prepared for the worst situation that day. Whereas, you know, the bee sting, yeah, I wasn't prepared in the sense that I didn't have an EpiPen on me, but I was prepared in that I had tons of wilderness experience underneath my belt at that point, you know. So I was less scared during the bee sting, but I knew it was more serious. But yeah, crazy experience, humbling experience.
Wait, what was the time in Washington?
That was just the PCT. You know, you're finishing the trail, or I was.
You were just talking about being miserable, which.
Yeah, I mean, you did your. Here's the deal with the early season snowfall, like we had there in Washington. What I was talking about, the whole trail turns into a creek. The snow's not sticking to the ground like in the wintertime. The snow is melting on the ground for the most part. It might stay to the grass, which absorbs less, you know, warm air during the day or retains less warm air, whereas the gravel, the stones, all those things, they're warm, so when the snow hits, it starts running, and that's what the trail is made of, so the trail turns into a creek. So that day, fortunately, I was hiking with two girls that I've been hiking with for a while. Super cool, awesome gals, and we were all able to be in one tent and share the body.
nice, yeah. Come here, ladies, I'm cold.
Yeah, so I mean, it wasn't the worst experience of my life, but it was scary. It was way scary, dude. When you're already fearful of going into hypothermia before you go to bed, where you're going to be totally still in the woods, that's scary shit.
I bet.
And you're soaked. It's a wet snow. So yeah, that was scary. But you know, the following day the sun came out, we dried up, we got off trail for a day, got to town, relaxed, gathered our bearings, and moved on.
So now God, this is just so funny because now I'm thinking through my near-death experiences, and there aren't many that come to mind.
Definitely.
It's crazy that you know, you've taken such an awesome route, you know, from college and continuing to do so out here in California.
Yeah, I mean, it just keeps going, man. Just keeps going. Just constantly learning, you know, just constantly learning, shifting, taking the best information I have and that I have access to and using it. And yeah, I'm so stoked on where it will go.
Will go.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, life is good. Very thankful for the previously talked about adventures and fun.
Yeah. So what would you say your biggest accomplishment is from, you know, spending all these years out in Colorado to even coming out here in California?
Well,
Or that you're most proud of?
Yeah, I mean, I'm most proud of just sticking to my path and, allowing myself to grow into an ultra runner, I guess I would say. But in terms of an actual event, there's been a couple things that stand out. Like, I think most people would bounce to the PCT and think that that's exactly it, and that was my biggest accomplishment. But truly, I feel way more attached to either my first ultra race, which was the Run Rabbit Run 50 miler in Steamboat Springs, Colorado, because that was just the first one, and it really proved something to myself. Obviously the Arizona Trail was fantastic as well, finishing that. But the one that stands out the most is easily, for me, the most empowered I've ever felt in my life was running the entire Backbone Trail right here in the Santa Monica Mountains, Point Mugu to Pacific Palisades, 16 hours, 21 minutes. I clocked it at 69.2 miles, starting 7 a.m., finishing at 11 p.m.
All solo.
Damn. All unsupported. Pack on my back, gathering water at there's only man-made, you're not gathering water from streams, creeks, or springs and rivers, lakes, as you imagine here. Luckily, you cross some roads and you're getting water from a water fountain or a hose, whatever. But yeah, all unsupported, meaning I brought all my own food, no staff sitting out. Classic Malibu.
Yeah.
Name that sports car sound or shut the door. But yeah, the Backbone Trail was easily my biggest one, just because it was all unsupported, no crew anywhere, didn't meet anyone along the way. 5 hours, 6 hours in the dark, all by myself in the mountains on what I probably had only done 12 miles of that trail beforehand, so 57 of them would be new miles. It would also be the furthest I'd ever gone in one day. It was just so empowering to see that I could go further than I'd ever gone before on really what was like no notice. I mean, I decided to do it on a Monday, anticipating to do it 2 Mondays thereafter, and instead I ran it the following morning. I ran it 12 hours after making the phone call to my buddy asking about some information, who I'd never met before, about the trail, because he had done it. And this guy was like, yeah, I'll pick you up in the morning. I'll drive you out there.
You're like, I guess I'm doing it.
Dude, all these runners are crazy. So I was like, well, shit, I feel really good right now. Feel really well right now. I got enough time to go to the grocery store. I don't really need any more information. I was prepared in the sense that I knew where I could get off and catch a hitch back to Malibu if I had to, or, getting down lower back to Venice, whatever, anywhere, the places I was familiar with. I knew how to get off the trail is what I'm saying. I knew that I'd have cell service most of the way. My buddies knew where I was. I knew that I had enough food. I wasn't going to run out of food. If anything, I had too much. I knew where the water was. So I was prepared and just gave it a go. And it was just like the most blissful day in the woods ever. Like no pain, no mental scaries.
What was the furthest you'd run before doing this?
50.
And that was Run Rabbit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Was that supported?
Yeah, but exactly. So supported is having a full crew. It's like a sanctioned race, but just like full crew. So you're only carrying handheld bottles rather than a backpack. Mm-hmm. And there's usually an aid station every 6 to 10 miles per se. Mm-hmm. So you're getting that. So you have all these waypoints where you're going to have food provided for you, water to refill, medical staff if you need them. Just people basically to pat you on the back and say good job and push you along, right? And that's huge mentally for stress. Massive. The amount of influence that stress has on our physical body as well is just like it. I notice it right now. I don't have that much stress, but it has been more than say 6 months ago, and I've been not nearly as good of a runner while I've had some more stress in my life than before.
From a physical standpoint?
From a physical standpoint, yeah. From a recovery, from a activity, like everything. Like when your mind is clear, everything better. Everything happens better. It's flow again, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, that day was just massive in that respect that it was all new. It was last minute, but I was totally prepared. And, whew. It was just. Oh, but I was talking about. Sorry, I just got off track there for a second. Like I was talking about what support is. And then there's self-supported where you put stuff out for yourself. There may not be a crew. There may not be anyone waiting there for you, but you know that you stashed water here or food there, so your pack is lighter and you know something is there. So you just have way less mental stress. So unsupported is like nothing. You're showing up to the trail with all your food, hoping the water is going to be where it is. And you have to just totally release and let go and allow yourself to just be in the moment. I like to say in the mile. Like it's just that the only mile that matters at that time is the mile you're on. So I had just like this super blissed out day on the trail. Beautiful weather. And, I remember getting to like mile 48. It was about sunset. It was in Malibu Canyon. And, it's just like, this is the dopest thing I've ever done.
You also had to be feeling real nice.
Oh, man, I felt so good. And it's crazy to say that at like 40, I think it was 48 miles in. But, I'd already gone just about as far as I'd ever gone, but without a crew once again. I wasn't in pain, so I was like, damn, you're really in touch with what you got going on today, And then the sunset came, and then it got dark. And when it gets dark, it's fight or flight. And that night I was just feeling so empowered that the nighttime actually drove me to feel even more badass. And
you're running faster.
I was running faster. I had negative splits on essentially a 70 mile run. Like my fastest mile was at I think mile 62. So and then then you work your way up and out of Malibu down into Topanga, and from Topanga to the Pacific Palisades. I never felt better about life. I mean, that's going into 70 miles. Literally pounding my chest and like just feeling like I could take the moon out of the sky. You're looking over the city lights, the inland valleys, the ocean, all at night, ridged out, just literally like, what can I do at this point? So that was that was easily the biggest thing I've ever done, adventure and running wise. And it's funny, like if for some people that's just a walk in the park, believe it or not. Like I am so beginner still at this stuff. I mean, that stuff is, but everyone, that's just to answer your question. That is definitely the moment that stands out from the rest.
So when you ran that and you finished, did you start thinking like, oh damn, if I could do this like I just did, what else can I do in this space? Yeah,
I mean, totally. Because then you're like, what can I do if it's supported? And then it's also like, what other places can I go to and do something like this? Just continuously asking what is possible.
Yeah. So what's next for you?
What's next for me? Well, what is scheduled is actually all supported stuff. I'm going to run the Ray Miller 50-50 race here in Malibu on December 3rd. I'm going to do the 50K. And then following that, about a month later, I've got a trail marathon in San Diego, outside of San Diego in the mountains, in the Cleveland National Forest, just San Diego Trail Marathon. And then following that, February 3rd, I have what I consider the big event of the year coming up, the Sean O'Brien 100K race I'm going to be running, also in Malibu. It comes out of Malibu Creek State Park, and I'm just super duper looking forward to that one. It's called the Golden Ticket Race, so the winner gets an automatic entry to Western States.
I'm so stoked for you, man.
And it's also a lottery ticket, so just finishing gives you a lottery. Because I do want to run all the biggest races, but
it starts with the Ray Miller.
Yeah, it does. I mean,
and that's your.
And I just want to keep doing more random stuff and putting together my own routes. I mean, my heart and passion still is at the unsupported thing. Sometimes racing makes me resent running because it makes me feel like I have to be there. So I really love the unsupported stuff because it's like it's on my own planner.
Well,
it's like whatever. I don't
that.
have, but I mean it because you don't have to ask people for days off from work. You don't have to do anything. You're just doing it when you can out of the enjoyment of doing it. So that's really, I guess, that last sentence is why I love unsupported. Even on top of the added adventure and survival aspect, it's the freedom. It all comes down to the freedom.
Saying, hey, I'm going to go do this, and then just go do it.
Yeah, I'm going to go do this because I can, I'm prepared, and I want to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome, man.
Yeah, I'm stoked. So
I'm stoked
coming up.
to talk about all that leading up to, during, and then after these events. That's going to be fun to document.
Yeah, I mean, it's a roller coaster, so can't wait.
Yeah, we'll have some fun.
Sweet.
All right. Well, that was awesome, dude. Man, I learned so much. I really appreciate all that.
That was great. That was like therapy.
I know that was a lot of fun, and obviously there's going to be a lot more conversations with Zach. He's got a lot of experiences that I know would be beneficial for a lot of people to hear about, and he's certainly a great person to learn from. So thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate those kind comments.
Yeah,
That's awesome. Thank you.
I'm just I'm excited to because I've known you for 11 years, but there's a lot of stories that I haven't heard before. So
there are. I'm super duper
platform
looking
for
forward to it.
Cool.
Yeah.
Until next time, we'll see you at the top, guys.